Okay, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the time this evening. We are Team Spill the Bill, which includes Abigail Lorincz, Leah Gray, and myself, Allan Kochanek. We're here tonight to talk to you about our product that we've worked on in Capstone 1 and 2, our Congressional Bill Tracker. We're going to walk you through first our foundational research, the ideation process that we went through, our prototyping, and then most recently in Capstone 2, our testing process and results. Slide. So a bit of background, why a Congressional Bill Tracker? Well, as we were exploring ideas at the very beginning of our process, we started discussing the fragmentation in the American political experience. I think we can all relate to the proliferation of new media outlets, news outlets, and social media news. And so we wanted to do a literature review to explore that further. We first looked at the OSROR model to understand people's reliance on apps and how that correlates to trust in political decisions. We wanted to understand how algorithms play a role, how they reinforce views or preconceived notions. We wanted to understand bias, how personalization or hyper-personalization in news feeds can fortify one's own views. Next slide. So our research objectives were threefold. First, we wanted to dig into user motivations and deeply understand the rationale and preferences behind political news consumption, understanding why users would avoid or reject direct sources when tracking politics. Then we wanted to understand source selection. How do users choose between direct and filtered political sources? And to what degree are they aware of direct sources, and what kind of value do they place on them? Next, in terms of user requirements, we wanted to identify user pain points and reduce friction when accessing direct sources. Next slide. So at the beginning of our project, we did a lot of desktop research, and the chart that you're seeing here is very emblematic of the research that we were coming across at that time. This Gallup poll was very well timed for the beginning of our project, being released in early 2022. And the essence of a lot of the information there was that Americans, although they prefer their online and TV news sources, they tend to trust them the least, which really speaks to this hyper kind of fragmentation of these sources. Next slide. Next, we started to do our competitive analysis, looking at multiple competitors in the marketplace to try to better understand their features and gaps that they have in terms of the existing political tracking tool landscape. Our top competitors spanned business to consumer, business to business, and public service. First, in business to consumer, ActiVote was really that consumer-focused feature and consumer-focused UI product. GovHawk, on the other hand, was very focused toward industry users with very robust searching and filtering capabilities. And of course, the public service, Congress.gov, although very content-rich, it requires a lot of user effort to extract good information. Next slide.
After all of this benchmarking, we started collecting qualitative and quantitative data by creating 21 survey questions divided into 4 sections: demographics, user source selection, user motivations, and product preferences. We collected 99 responses, and here is an overview of the demographics. Majority of participants were between the ages of 25 and 34 years of age, and most of the participants at least had a bachelor's degree. 53% were male and 43% were female. 72% follow political news, and respondents were 30% Democratic, 18% Republican, and 37% independent. Overall, we felt the survey captured a balanced group of the American population. Next slide. Not sure if I'm lagging. Okay. For the survey results, diving deeper, participants felt that the reputation of news outlets, fairness of reporting, and personal fact-checking were most important when evaluating the credibility of sources. The biggest obstacles when tracking political activity were lack of time, difficulties sorting source credibility, and overwhelming amount of information. Results also revealed that a lot of people use their laptop or smartphone to access social media or websites. And the top 3 activities that users track are election results, legislative bills, and political speeches. Next slide. In addition to the survey, the team conducted 2 focus group interviews. Overall, participants felt they could be doing more to be politically informed, and that direct sources were unfamiliar or unappealing. In focus group 1, they had an appetite for connection to local sources, and overall higher engagement in social media. Focus group 2 trusted their personal network to assess source credibility, and had lower engagement on social media. Trending comments included, "I could probably be more informed," "I believe it is important to vote," "I want content relevant to me," and "I fact check things myself." Some more insightful comments highlight how hard it is to be sure if information is biased, the struggle to actually access the information, and the feeling of embarrassment when they don't understand political jargon. Next slide.
So taking our survey and focus group data, the team set out to do affinity mapping and dot voting to enable us to identify some key user requirements. Some of those user requirements include users really wanted control and personalization of their experience. They wanted us to enable a connection to their representatives. They wanted transparency in source materials. They wanted help from us to connect them to trusted resources. And they really wanted to compile and filter information that was highly relevant to them personally. All of this work resulted in 4 key themes. The first one, which we called trusted networks, is all about the user determining source credibility or relying on their network to help them determine source credibility. Theme 2, make it relevant, was all about helping the user understand how information, how legislation impacts them and them personally. Theme 3, empower me, is all about the user wanting to be more informed. How can we empower them to be more informed, to do better research and make better decisions? And theme 4, in the driver's seat, is all about personalization, giving the user control and personalized options. Next slide. So our idea generation process was threefold. First, we started brainstorming to surface unconstrained ideas on our themes, ranging from the very simple to the very stretchy. Then we consolidated those ideas into concepts and focused on the best opportunities to ideate around. We then further refined our key concepts, voting on the feasibility and desirability of each. Next slide. So what you're seeing here are our top, what we're calling our top user-centered picks, and we refer to them as our edited picks. And these form the basis of our idea book. And what you're seeing here are some ideas that really floated to the top, ones that were really not only stretchy, but unique and would provide key differentiation for us in the marketplace. One quick example of that is prime players. And this was addressing the theme of making it relevant to them. What this particular feature was aimed at doing was helping users understand who the key players in legislation were and who would benefit from that legislation. So not only sponsors and co-sponsors, but what industries might also be pushing for this legislation to help round out their knowledge. Next slide. So we took some of these ideas, especially some of the stretchy ones, and we started to storyboard them. Trusted networks is one example of the storyboarding that we did. And here we follow a user who met someone at a party who seemed very politically astute, very politically informed. So our user wonders if that person uses Spill the Bill. Are they part of the Spill the Bill community? And sure enough, when they look into their friends' network, they see that connection to the person they met at the party. Then they're able to do a friend request because it's in their extended network. Once that person accepts, our user can then see what kind of research and what kind of information that user is consuming, and that can help form the basis for them to do better and more research. Next slide.
So then using our storyboard, we were able to wireframe our key features. So here, as soon as it loads, you're going to see the first version of the compare amendments tool that we made, where the users can see content that was both added and removed between different versions of a bill. As soon as that loads. So again, you'll see content here that was both added and removed. On the left-hand side, you'll see that the legislation content was removed from this bill and then added to the right-hand side in the second amendment. And although we produced over 20 wireframes, I'll show you just one more for the sake of time. This is our highlight players feature, in which the user can toggle topics both on and off to see them highlighted directly within the bill. And we've also provided a pop-up glossary for terms that the user might be unfamiliar with. So once we had all of our key user flows wireframed, we started to give consideration to our website's visual design. We chose a neutral color palette with primarily shades of black and gray to elicit a more objective brand. Similarly, we chose a round sans serif font to demonstrate neutrality in our product. And finally, we really leveraged Google Material 3 design system to build scalable and accessible components such as buttons, tabs, and nav bars, all directly in Figma. And so these UI guidelines were then used to develop our user scenarios and an animated storyboard in preparation for our usability testing. So we'll show that to you now.
Spill the Bill offers unfiltered information and a content-rich site, yet more visually appealing and user-friendly than conventional .gov sites. Next, we'll take a look at 3 user scenarios which highlight this positioning. User Scenario 1. Our first user scenario is about receiving partial information. In this scenario, our user, Kate, received an alert on her phone about a piece of legislation that has just passed. Kate then takes that information to our site to explore further and learn more about the act. Here we see Kate receiving an alert from her favorite news site, but it makes her wonder, what exactly is in the Inflation Reduction Act? Kate is determined to find out more, but she wonders, how could she get an unbiased view? So she starts to think, what was the name of that site she heard of where she could do her own research? Recalling the website, Kate checks out Spill the Bill to investigate further and find out more about this act. Spill the Bill takes a more consumer-centric approach by offering headlines and bill summaries, a menu to find legislation by topics, a section that shows users trending legislation, and provides easy access to finding representatives. User Scenario 2. The second scenario is all about contacting a representative. In this scenario, the bill prompts our user, Kate, to contact her representative. She utilizes the convenient contact option available on the bill's page. Spill the Bill makes contacting your representative simple and easy. Simply click on a bill, click on Contact Representatives on the left, then scroll or search for your representative, click on them, then once in their page, click Contact Representative and a form comes up to contact them directly. User Scenario 3. In Scenario 3, Area of Interest, our user wants to browse legislation of personal and professional interest In this case, Kate wants to investigate healthcare. She uses the mega menu on the homepage to see if healthcare is a menu topic to explore. Clicking on the icon to expand the mega menu, Kate sees that healthcare is an option to explore further. Exploring the health page further, Kate can scroll through pending legislation and look at the most popular healthcare bills being introduced. Spill the Bill also offers robust filtering capabilities. Here we see filtering by bill status, date introduced, and sponsor, to name a few. We also provide a convenient tracker which allows users to track legislation that they're interested in. We also offer the ability to watch live and provide a convenient congressional schedule.
So the storyboard definitely includes our essential user scenarios, but I also wanted to show you a few additional features that work their way into our usability testing. So here you see the ability for users to create an account or log in with Spill the Bill. On the home page, the user can see trending news by the politicians that are involved. They can also scroll down to access local policy issues. So for example, you're seeing congressional bills that impact the Metro Detroit area. And next to each bill, you can see the status of the legislation and whether it's close to becoming law using the bill tracker. When the user identifies a bill that they're interested in, they can also click on it and they're taken to a page like this where they can research the bill further. Users can see all the co-sponsors and even politicians, follow the politicians that really interest them. And then we've also built this interactive voting record tool that allows you to see the political leanings of each politician as well as their voting stance on the bill. So for instance, here's Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, and you can see that she leans on the right and voted nay. We've also prototyped a few different research tools. So if you click on the legislation text tab, you'll see the full congressional write-up, including an AI-powered summary. We also designed a high-fidelity version of that highlight players feature. So if the user interacts with it, they can see the topic they checked highlighted within the bill. So in this case, all agricultural terms are highlighted in green. And then finally, you also just saw that we kept the pop-up glossary as well. Users can also view all of the politicians. They can toggle between both representatives and senators. So if the user clicks on a politician, they can see an overview of their recent activity. So this might include like how they voted on past bills or the different committee assignments that they have. And this is also where the user can contact their representatives as needed.
Once we completed the high-fidelity prototypes, the team started usability testing. The usability test was developed around the 3 scenarios revealed in our usability storyboard. The participants voluntarily agreed to participate in the study, knowing that we expect the user to 1. Disclose political news consumption habits, preferences, and motivations. 2. Interact with our website prototype to complete predetermined tasks. And 3. Provide feedback on the functionality and aesthetics of the website design. For the first round of testing, we had 6 participants, all above 18 years old. When asked, 50% said they actively follow political news, and 50% said no, but they hear about political news from others. The testing environment was computer-based and performed on the participants' personal computers, and all of our team members were test facilitators. Next slide. While reviewing and analyzing the evaluation results, the team considered user task flow, task completion time, successful task completion, and the system usability survey. As a whole, the SUS analysis resulted in a 74.2%, which landed in the acceptable range. The user feedback unveiled limitations in the prototype. In the first task, Senior Assurance Care Act task, users scrolled down the homepage rather than using Browse the Health Bills. Secondly, in the Researching Congressional Bills task, users struggled to find the Inflation Reduction Act on the homepage without a search bar. These evaluations were also backed up by some open-ended feedback. One user recommended that some of the content could be more clear and easier to view, and another user said they want to be able to search the function to locate a bill. The team developed 5 insights and limitations. 1, scaling back on some of the tasks, not asking for the users to find a representative and send them an email, rather just ask them to find and contact a representative. 2, integrating search bar might have been into our prototype might have helped the users complete the tasks faster. 3, users wanted to see the names for each bill on the home page. 4, the voting record chart was not clear for first-time users. And 5, many users commented that the Spill the Bill logo got lost on the page and they did not recognize this as a button. Next slide.
So as you just heard, our first round evaluation definitely left a lot of opportunities to improve the usability. So the first thing we did was increase the color contrast of some interactive elements. So in this case, we restyled the Find Your Representatives container to aid recognition of this feature that was used pretty frequently. So on the left, you'll see before it was a light gray container, but now on the right, it has a black background, which contrasts more against our white homepage. And this is just to simply direct the user's attention towards the feature. We also made a key revision to support users who wanted to find specific legislation. So beforehand, we had narrative style headlines that would kind of tease information provided in each bill. We ended up making the decision to revert back to listing the names of bills to better support how users were searching for legislation using our website. It was easier for users to find the Inflation Reduction Act when the headline clearly stated the name of the act, which ultimately led us to make that change. And our results also indicated that the voting record chart didn't really do enough to help users identify the voting stances of each senator. So we went back into Figma and we created a more interactive chart that enables the user to toggle between yay and nay votes, just to more clearly see the positions of politicians for either for or against a specific piece of legislation. And so after we made the revisions, we knew our changes needed to be validated with end users again. So we performed a second round of testing using 6 participants, half of which were new and half of which had participated in round 1. We saw significant reductions in average task completion times. In gray, you'll see version 1 of the prototype, where in many cases tasks took a couple minutes to complete. And this heavily contrasts version 2, in which every task was completed in under 40 seconds.
We see similar results with the task completion, where round 2 suggests that there were significant improvements based off task completion. So for researching congressional bills, there was an improvement from 29% completion to 83% completion. Amendments to the Inflation Reduction Act, there was improvement, voting records, and also Locate Senior Insurance Act. Next slide. The same trend follows with the SUS score. So version 1 was 74% and version 2, 82%. This tells the team that the user feedback helped us improve the prototype's usability. Next slide. So to wrap it up, the team desired to find a balance between user-friendly and usability, and we saw a need to build a customer-centric product, but reduce unintended bias. For example, user testing showed that the headlines caused confusions when users were trying to access the bill names. We found that the multiple rounds of testing and incremental improvements made a significant impact on the design and the usability of Spill the Bill. We had 3 main limitations throughout the course: 1, time constraints; 2, project scope; and 3, the second round of testing. The time constraint we're unable to explore the stretchy features and long-term market potential is still unclear. In terms of the project scope, focus on fewer features limits the generalizability of findings. And in the second round of testing, 3 participants tested in round 1 may have learned some tasks.